Hey, good morning. Hope everybody's well. It's kind of late, but we're still going here. This is going to be part one of a three-part series on codependency. Codependency is an issue that affects us in all sorts of different ways, and it isn't just about dealing with somebody with an addiction problem. It manifests itself in all sorts of different characteristics and categories. And so I'm going to take some time to explain this and give you some information on it and also some self assessment pieces. So, two or three slides in, I can't remember exactly how many, there's a little test. So, if you would avail yourself of a pencil and paper or pen and paper, you get to do some self assessment on this shortly. So hang in there. Now, as always, we have to check our thinking. Is what you're thinking true? Is it really true? How are you feeling or acting because of how you're thinking? And how would you feel or act if you thought differently? And like many things, much of codependency is about trying to self regulate. And very, very often, our self regulation becomes dependent on how other people are doing. And so we'll spend all sorts of effort and energy uh, focusing our time and attention on making sure people around us, whether they're family members or work colleagues or whatever, are doing what we think that they should be doing. Because one of the characteristics of codependency is always trying to control things so that the things seem okay, because if the things seem okay, we feel okay. Uh, so how are you feeling or acting because of how you're thinking, and how would you feel or act if you thought differently? And like I said, much of this is based around us trying to create our own sense of safety or our own sense of comfort by making sure other people are doing what we think they should be doing. And we may be right in lots of those cases, but we also, by orchestrating other people's lives too much, we may be robbing them of opportunities to learn how to be more independent, more creative, more curious, those kinds of things. So, uh, uh, in many, many ways, codependency is like a substance abuse or addiction problem. And I shouldn't use that substance abuse term because it's a bit pejorative, but uh, uh, people kind of understand it. So uh, it affects relationships, it affects schoolwork, it affects money, and it affects self-esteem. And I'm stuck. Uh, it, it's always in response to some sort of pain. Uh, and it's always a very emotional process. And like I said when I started, it's about trying to regulate how we are feeling, and very much based on what's going on around us rather than exactly what we're doing. Like we'll very often people that are fairly codependent will chronically sacrifice their own time or their own priorities so that uh, other people around them are feeling okay, or at least the perception is that we've managed them to feel okay. And now we're totally stuck in some kind of weird loop. There we go. Sorry. Um, I'm fairly codependent on this machine working the way I would like it to work, not always the way it should work. So there's basically three types. There's reactive codependency, controlling, or enabling. So the reactive type uh, is when that person that we're codependent on is good, we're good. When they're not good, we're not good. The controlling type is orchestrating everything in the person's life so that they don't really have problems, so that they don't run into consequences for what they do, so that they don't uh, experience uh, negatives because of their choices. We try and preempt their mistakes so that they don't get into trouble. And then the enabling type is removing obstacles for the person, making excuses for them, paying bills, doing things for them, uh, telling them how to, totally manage their time, manage their days, those kinds of things. Uh, Okay, now here's your opportunity to do some self-assessment. So uh, this is going to run through another explanation of codependency, but it's going to look at 11 symptoms. So I'll play this, and then we'll look at a couple more things, and then that's going to be it for the day, and then we'll carry on tomorrow.
Do you think that codependence might be something that you're struggling with? Do you ever worry that it's getting in the way of having healthy relationships? Well, it's a struggle for a lot of us. And in my last video, I talked about why people become codependent, what it's kind of all about, and why so many people do really struggle with it, and how it can get in the way of us having happy and healthy relationships, the kind of relationships that we deserve. So today we are going to talk about the 11 key signs that you, or maybe somebody that you know, is struggling with codependence. And then we're going to talk about 3 really simple things that we can do to start moving through this one. If we are just connecting for the first time, my name is Julia Christina, and I'm a registered therapist, researcher, and online course creator. And I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I work to help men and women get through the crap that is holding them back so they can like themselves and their lives more every day, so that we can all like ourselves and our lives more every day, because I think that's what most of us want. So codependence, and I'm not going to go into specifically all the ins and outs of it because I did that in my last video, and I'll put a link to that here. So make sure that you check that out if you're new to the whole codependence thing. But here I really wanted to break down the 11 key signs that you might be struggling with it. So if this stuff is really connecting with you and resonating with you, then it's going to be time to start doing something about it. First, we need that awareness. First, we need that insight. And then we need to take the constructive action to heal and deal and work through whatever it is that we're struggling with. So essentially, I'm just going to lay it out to you. Codependence is the need to be needed. Not liking being needed, not enjoying being needed, not just feeling good when we're needed, but absolutely needing to be needed by especially our significant other, but maybe even most people, that we find our identity in being needed by other people. And that's the boundary between healthy and unhealthy dependence, is it becomes codependent when we need to be needed. So those 11 signs, I'm not going to go into too much detail. They're pretty self-explanatory. So the first one is that you're someone who feels responsible for solving other people's problems. And you feel like if you can't solve somebody's problem, if you can't fix their problem for them, then you're scared that they're going to leave you. Because maybe that's all you think that you bring to the relationship, is being able to solve people's problems or fix their problems for them. And so the next one is you find it almost impossible to say no and end up giving way more to the relationship than the other person, that you maybe even feel like the survival of the relationship is up to you, that you're responsible for keeping.
Oh shoot, I have to go back there. But I just wanted to point out that that there's all sorts of different kind of relationships, and she's kind of talking about couples relationships, but it can be work relationships, teacher-student relationships, parent-child relationships, all sorts of uh, like any kind of relationship dynamic will fit into that. So I apologize for screwing that up. So I'll get back to where we were here, more or less. I wasn't watching the time.
Struggling with. So essentially, I'm just going to lay it out to you. We need to be needed. So those 11 signs, I'm not going to go into too much detail. They're into the relationship is being able to solve people's problems or fix their problems for them. And so the next one is you find it almost impossible to say no and end up giving way more to the relationship than the other person, that you maybe even feel like the survival of the relationship is up to you, that you're responsible for keeping the relationship together. It's all on you. The next one, you get really hurt or upset or even maybe bitter or resentful when you feel like people aren't praising you and recognizing you for everything that you're doing, because you are doing a lot, you're giving everything, but then maybe even feeling ripped off or taken advantage of or taken for granted when people don't recognize everything that you are doing. And then the next one is that you may need to feel in control all the time and avoid conflict or any kind of upset at any cost, that you're willing to do anything, give in, put your own stuff aside, do things that you might not necessarily want to do, say things that you might not want to say, act in ways that you're not even comfortable with, because you want to avoid conflict. The thought of having a conflict brings up severe and significant panic in you, because maybe even you feel like if there's conflict in the relationship, if you do or say something that the other person doesn't like, that they might just leave you. If they don't have any use for you, if you're not fulfilling all of their needs, then they're just going to up and leave you, because maybe you don't have any value, or you feel like you don't have any value if you're not meeting all of their needs all the time. The next one is you have a hard time trusting yourself and really feel like if you ever make a mistake that people are going to abandon you. Like there's a lot riding on you. There's a lot of pressure. You really feel like people are just going to give up on you if you ever make a mistake, if you ever make a wrong move, if you ever screw up, that you really feel all of this pressure to do it right, to meet everyone's needs, to be what other people want you to be, or maybe if it's just that partner, that key person in your life, that you really feel like it's all on you to get it right all the time. Number 6 is you feel like your only value in the relationship comes from being able to save that person, fix them, get them through their problems, fix their problems for them, maybe clean up their messes, deal with their stuff, fix everything around them, kind of going around trying to make everything in their life okay for them, that you're the one that feels like it's up to you to do it for them. And the next one is, number 7, is that you may do anything to hold on to the relationship, even if it's something that's unsafe or destructive. That you may be willing to compromise a lot. You may be willing to do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally otherwise, because you feel like it's what you need to do to hang on to the relationship, because you don't actually believe that you could survive alone, that you don't actually believe that you could do it alone. So you're willing to do some pretty compromising things sometimes just to hang on to the relationship. And then the other part of that is that you're willing to do things or not speak up or not set a boundary or not assert your own wants, needs, or preferences in the relationship. Because if you do, you feel really guilty. If you ever make the relationship about you, if you ever speak up, if you ever say anything, you feel really guilty, you feel really bad, and maybe even really scared that the person's just going to get fed up just like that and leave you. And then the next one is that you will do anything to make that person feel better, to fix their problem, to solve their issue, to come in and save them from whatever it is, even if you're putting your own health and safety at risk, even if it's really could be dangerous for you, that you're willing to do it, that the reward of feeling like you are the savior, you're the one who fixed it, you're the one who's needed by that person, that is worth it to you to maybe do something that could be putting you at risk. And then the next one is that you might even have a hard time identifying your own feelings. You might really struggle to know what you're feeling. It's like, Julia, it's nice to say that, I'm doing everything for this other person, I'm trying to meet all of their needs, but what if I don't even know what my needs are? What if I don't even know what my feelings are? And that often happens when we struggle with codependence, and we're so used to being there for somebody else. We're so used to doing it all and like wrapping ourselves up in other people's stuff and making it all about them that we lose sight, and we lose knowledge, and we lose that understanding within ourselves about who we are and what's important to us and what we need. And then the last one is that you may only really feel important or valued or feel like you have any worth in a relationship when they need you, when your partner or when other people need you, and maybe even this sense that they can't live without you. That this may even draw you to choose partners who are really needy, who are in crisis, who are struggling, who have a serious or significant mental health issue or an addiction issue or something else that you feel like, it's not that if you have a partner who has a mental health struggle or an addiction that you're codependent. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying for those of us who may be codependent to look at this. Am I in this relationship because I need to be needed? And is that kind of the main reason why I'm there? So what can we do about this? 3 really simple things that we can start doing to deal with this one. And the first one is to really do some soul searching, to really spend some time with ourselves and figuring out, who am I? What's important to me? What do I need? What makes me tick? Like, really, who am I? Who am I outside of being someone who's just needed all the time? What lights me up? What do I love? What am I good at? And really developing more of these other aspects of ourselves outside of just what we can do for other people. Who am I? And really developing that self and to create more of that balance so that we can do things for other people, that it's nice to be needed by them, that we can help people out and support them, encourage them because we like that, not because that's all we've got going for us or feel like that's all we have going for us. So developing this other side of ourselves. And then the next one is to learn how to create healthy boundaries, to learn how to know where the limits are between being helpful and supportive and taking on other people's stuff and trying to fix them for them. So where's that boundary? And usually the boundary is between healthy and unhealthy support, or healthy and unhealthy being there for someone. Is when it's unhealthy, we feel stressed out, we feel worn out, we feel maybe even bitter, resentful, overwhelmed with other people's problems. And where it's healthy is where we feel like I can be there for them, I can support them, I can work with them on this one. It feels good. I feel like I'm being a good friend. I feel like I'm being a good partner, or whatever it is that I'm like, I feel like I can sustain this. I feel like I can do this. I feel like I can keep doing this. Because I'm not trying to fix it for them, I'm just trying to be there for them and support them. And we'll go into detail in another talk, knowing really what that means, the difference between sympathy and empathy. And you can look that up if you want to get a little bit of a head start. But empathy is healthy, and empathy we can keep doing until the cows come home, and sympathy is exhausting and draining and wears us out really quickly. And then the last thing that we can do, and it goes without saying, is really working through our deeper stuff.
Right.
Those attachment injuries that I talked about in the first video I did about codependence, that really looking at those deeper attachment injuries, that stuff that's perpetuating and causing us to act in these codependent ways, that we can do this through reading books, through attending groups like CODA, or even group therapy, or seeing a therapist that specializes in this kind of stuff, to really go deeper and healing in and working through and figuring out how to get rid of some of these unhealthy ways of behaving.
Okay, so um, some interesting stuff there. And certainly you don't have to say yes to all of those things to be struggling with some codependent issues. And certainly if you are struggling with some codependent issues, that absolutely does not mean that you're a bad person. It does mean that some of the things that you're doing are hurting you. And some of the discomfort, some of the stress that you feel uh, will start to go away if you manage things differently. And the other little piece that she said are those historical issues. And often people who are are struggling with codependency have grown up in situations that weren't entirely healthy for a variety of reasons. I mean, it doesn't have to be uh, frying pans flying across the kitchen unhealthy, but if, in lots of ways we didn't feel good enough and we worked too hard to please our parents, and it never was quite enough, that starts to create some, uh, huge potential for being codependent. And if we had parents that uh, were less than functional and we started to take on roles where we were solving problems for them, doing things for them, uh, cleaning up after them, those kinds of things. Uh, and in doing that, we received some love and attention, then that colors, our relationships still today. So those 11 questions certainly will start to give you some insight. And this is just this, one of my favorite little codependent cartoons is you're fine, how am I? And if we start to evaluate how we are based on how people around us are, like if they're happy, I'm happy, if they're sad, I'm going to be sad, like just sort of following that same cycle, then uh, uh, then again, that's another sign that we've got some work to do that would help us feel better. Uh, so I think I'm going to stop there, and we'll pick this up tomorrow because I definitely don't want to overload you with too much information. And spend some time thinking about that, and then we'll dig a little deeper into this tomorrow. So thanks for listening or watching or whatever, and I will check in with you tomorrow. Thank you. Now the usual peering around to stop the recording. There we go.